I think it's safe to call the original Dark Souls one of the best games ever. It helped to make difficult games mainstream, and it sold like a bajillion copies. And it deserved to sell a bajillion copies. It's a fantastic game, and yeah, parts of it seem unfinished and slapped together, but on the whole, it is an absolutely wonderful fantasy RPG. Many of the bosses in the game are unforgettable, as cliche as that may sound, and the areas are immaculate and feel special in a way that most video game levels don't. And I think there's a kind of depth to the game that can only be appreciated with multiple playthroughs. I love Dark Souls, and I think it's a very special game, so if you haven't played Dark Souls, you should give it a shot. But with that being said, I can't bring myself to go back to it. And this is sad because, again, this is a game I love. And this is a game that holds a special place in my heart, and it will always be a part of me. You know, it's something that will always influence my creative work, and in my mind, it is special and safe and pure. But I can't return to it. I can't go back to Dark Souls. And the thing is, it's not even the game that's the problem, it's the memories. Okay, so let's have a bit of a story time, right? Who doesn't like story time? So about a year and a half ago, in December 2021 and January 2022, I went through a very rough patch. I had just finished an absolutely exhausting, overwhelming semester of school so that I could graduate in the spring, and so I took 6 classes that semester, and I studied and tested out of another 3, and that was, of course, in addition to all the other crap that life throws at you. But I worked super hard during that semester, and I was just exhausted by the end of it, and I was so excited for the winter break that was coming up. You know, I had all these grand plans, like I was going to work on a bunch of stories I was writing, and I was going to make some videos for this channel, because at that point in time, I had literally 2 videos up, and that was it. But during the last week of classes, I got sick with a stomach virus and was out for a week. And then a week after I had recovered from the stomach virus, I got bronchitis and was out for another 2 weeks. In addition to that, during this break, I was severely depressed and unhappy. Even in the little bit of time when I was doing well, I wasn't seeing any of my friends or talking to them much, and I wasn't doing any of the personal projects that I had planned, so I was absolutely miserable. But almost the entire time, whether I was sick or whether I was well, I was playing Dark Souls. Like I said at the start, it's an absolutely phenomenal game, and there's depth to it, and so you can really sink your teeth into it. And so during this time, I played the game. And before this break, I'd played through Dark Souls probably twice, and I thought it was just great. But when all this crap went down, I beat it a 3rd time, and then I beat it a 4th, and then I beat it a 5th, and a 6th, and a 7th, and an 8th time. And I just couldn't stop playing it. I kept on uninstalling it, and then I would reinstall it because I felt like crap and didn't want to do anything because I felt like garbage, and then I would just sit there and play the game all day, and then that would make me feel worse. You know, because whenever I wasn't playing the game, I was sick and I was throwing up everywhere and it just wasn't fun. And so during the short week when I was getting better, when I tried to stop playing Dark Souls, the problem was that I stayed in my bedroom mostly, you know, just kind of cut off and isolated and alone. And without school, most of the social interaction I was having kind of vanished. And so I felt incredibly alone. I actually talked about this entire experience before in what ended up being the 3rd video on this channel, Dark Souls and the Death of God. And it has a silly thumbnail, but the video is quite serious. I talk about how if you're struggling with your sense of meaning and purpose in life, then a video game, like Dark Souls, can come along and provide you with a sense of meaning. And I talk about how in the face of economic and familial and relationship challenges, video games can provide a respite from all of that, especially Dark Souls. That video was more focused on a broad societal kind of view of things, but with this one, even though I'm talking about the same period in life, I've had some time to reflect on the entire experience, and I wanted to share an intensely personal point of view. So I love Dark Souls, but I don't think I can ever go back to it after this experience I had. You know, I've tried playing it a couple times since then, but I never make it that far into the game. I just stop in the Undead Burg and I quit. And when I play it, I'm uncomfortable and I'm unhappy and I just don't feel right. And the reason why I can't play, the reason why I can't go back to Dark Souls, is because it reminds me of a time when I was absolutely miserable. In Vladimir Nabokov's book Pale Fire, there's a section in the titular poem that reads as follows. I was an infant when my parents died, but certain words, chance words I hear or read, such as bad heart, always to him refer, and cancer of the pancreas, to her. I kind of love seeing this line because it reminded me of how everyone attaches personal meaning to different things. Some things remind you of other things, and that's just the way life is. And I think that applies to art as well. I think everyone attaches some personal meaning to different works of art in their lives. I think it's normal to connect how you feel about something to a certain time in your life. Everyone remembers a movie that they saw as a kid that they can look back fondly on now that they're older. If you're part of my generation, then you probably get a warm, fuzzy feeling whenever you think about Pokemon or maybe SpongeBob, something like that. Or maybe you remember being read a book by a teacher or a parent, so when you hear the word Narnia, you're transported back to that special place. Or maybe there's a song that you can't listen to because it reminds you of someone that you used to know. How many pop songs have been written about that specific feeling? But what I find interesting is the fact that if you're like me, then you're constantly trying to expose yourself to new art, whether that be new music, new books, new games, whatever. So just based off of that, I would think that every piece of media I've enjoyed would have some kind of memory directly connected to it. But I haven't found that to be the case. In fact, I don't have any kind of real strong emotional attachment to the overwhelming majority of games that I play, but I have that to Dark Souls, and it used to be a good emotional attachment. I used to love it, but now I just kind of feel miserable. I feel disgusted. I feel repulsed whenever I think of the very thought of playing Dark Souls. What happened to all those positive feelings that I had towards the game, and why were they replaced with negative feelings? After all, I loved the game, so how could this happen? And I have a theory. There's this idea floating around about relationships that the deeper the love you have for someone, the deeper the hate you will have for them if they betray you or if they mistreat you in some way. Basically, if you care a lot about someone and they hurt you, then the amount of hate that you feel will be equal to the amount of love for them that you once felt. And this is an idea that they've done some research on, and some studies have backed this idea up. And I think that this idea is true, not just for relationships, but for anything that you care about, including art. There are plenty of instances where a fan base feels like their thing, whatever that is, has been turned against them, and they will sometimes feel betrayed, and they will come to hate the thing, or the new version of their thing. So to give you a concrete example, look at Devil May Cry. Everyone loved the earlier Devil May Cry games, or, 3 out of 4 ain't bad. So when the series was rebooted, and everything about it was changed so much as to be essentially unrecognizable, people hated it. And one of the reasons why they hated it was because they felt betrayed. And there's more to the situation than that, without a doubt, but I think that this is a very simplified example of this principle at work. The deeper the love is, the deeper the hate. But there's a variation on that which I think is applicable to my situation that I'm discussing. It goes something like, the deeper the love, the deeper the pain. I think it's more accurate because I don't hate Dark Souls, right? How could I? The game is incredible and it did nothing wrong to me. But as I played it more and more and more, I began to associate the game not with my joy and with the love of that experience, but with the pain and frustration and just plain weakness that I was feeling in my life at that time. In my head, the game has become linked directly to that very bad period of my life. And I want to say that I loved Dark Souls. So again, the deeper the love that I felt for it, the deeper the pain that I feel now. I think it's normal to associate our experiences, our memories, our very real lives with fictional works of art, and I think that's just a fact of life. I would love to return to Lordran. I want to feel that same sense of wonder and amazement that I had when I first started playing the game, but it's gone now. Dark Souls has become a kind of tombstone for me, a marker for a time in my life when I was close to my lowest, and that hurts. It hurts because the game is still incredible, and I've recommended it to people since then, even in spite of the feelings that it brings up for me now. And you know what? I'll do it again. I did it at the start of the video. I'll do it again. If you haven't played Dark Souls, please just give it a shot. It's a masterpiece. But it's just not a masterpiece that I can enjoy anymore, at least not in this time in my life. So in Dark Souls, you play as one of the undead. But if you consume an item known as humanity, then with the aid of a bonfire, you can restore yourself back to being a human. Essentially, you are bringing life and health and maybe even hope back to your character. And part of me wonders if the same kind of thing can be done with media that has bad memories attached to it. Basically, I'm wondering, is it possible to exorcise any bad feelings that you may have attached to a piece of art? Is it possible to get rid of these feelings and to kind of bring it back to where it once was? Is it possible to restore that joy? If I were to push through the depressive feelings that come back up for me, would I be able to make more memories with Dark Souls? I had good memories from Dark Souls, and then I imprinted bad memories over them. So would it be possible to overwrite the bad memories and replace them with good ones? Is it possible to regain that same sense of beauty and wonder and joy that I got from once playing Dark Souls? And honestly, I think it might be possible. I think that if I were to sit down and play it with someone who had never before experienced it, or if I just watched someone close to me play it, then maybe those bad feelings and the bad memories of mine could be overwritten to a certain extent. Maybe they could be replaced. Part of me feels like it's possible to almost purify Dark Souls as it exists in my mind, and to restore its humanity in a manner of speaking. I think it can be done. But the question is, would it be worth it? Would pushing through and working through the painful feelings that come up when I'm reminded of a bad time in my life be worth it, just to maybe enjoy a video game once more? For me, with where I'm at in life right now, I don't think I want to do that. I don't want to think about all the wasted days and the despairing thoughts that ran through my mind during that time period. I don't want to recall that past version of myself that was so hopeless and unhappy. And really, this is why I can't return to Dark Souls. It is not the game. It has nothing to do with the game, and it's entirely me. And it's sad. I suppose there are much worse things than not being able to go back to a video game. But at the same time, I don't want to downplay things. I don't want to say that Dark Souls is just a game, because I don't want to trivialize my experience, and I don't want to trivialize Dark Souls itself. Whether or not you think games are art is ultimately your own decision. Personally, I do consider them to be art, a kind of weird hybrid of nearly every other art form that has come before it. And so I think it's sad, regardless of the specifics, regardless of whether or not you see it as art. I think it's sad when someone can't find comfort or peace or joy in something that they once felt so safe in. I won't speak much on this because this is a topic for an entirely different video, but I don't believe there is a such thing as objectively viewing art. You will always bring your personal biases into that. And I think that experiences like mine are just a reminder of that. A reminder that viewing art cannot be objective. It is always subjective. I think that in a lot of ways, art is static, right? The Mona Lisa has remained the same for hundreds of years, right? It has not changed. Depending on how it's been kept and how it's been treated, sure, it might be a little bit more worn out now, but really at its core, it hasn't changed because it's a piece of art, right? It doesn't change and it doesn't grow like people do. And that's the thing, is people change. And so in turn, because of the fact we change, the way we view art changes as well. And that includes art that we may have once loved. And sometimes our experiences make us appreciate a work of art more, but other times you end up with an experience like mine, where something has essentially been ruined, not because it has changed or because any of the development staff or anyone did anything wrong. It's just because of you. It's just because of your own experience, your own memories. Something that you are bringing to the table taints it for you, and that hurts. But overall, is it a bad thing that your personal biases can affect how you view a piece of art so much? Like I said earlier, I don't think it's a good or a bad thing necessarily. I think it's just a fact of life. That as you pioneer through life, you will develop connections between life experiences and pieces of art you encounter. After all, the entire point of art is to resonate and to connect with someone on a deeper emotional level than can be achieved otherwise. So I think this phenomenon is just kind of normal. I think it's just, it's here. It's here. Whether or not we like it, it's here. But still, this experience on the whole it makes me sad. It makes me sad knowing that I probably won't be able to step foot in Lordran anytime soon. And I just wanted to kind of get that out, I guess. So if you feel comfortable with the idea, feel free to share any experiences with real life affecting your view of a work of art. I would love to hear about it. I don't think these experiences have to be bad, and this is kind of where I want to end. I think that you can have experiences like this that can be ones of true beauty and joy. There are songs that I love because they remind me of being a kid, or because they remind me of someone close to me, someone who I love and care about. And so I don't think it has to be a bad thing. I don't think that bringing memories into something has to ruin it. I think that in some cases it can make it better. So if you can think of any instances like this in your life, I would love to hear about it. So thank you for watching, and as always, do take care of yourself and have a wonderful night. Thank you, and goodbye.